Hey there, are you ready to go on an incredible adventure? Today, we are going to follow the amazing journey of a frog's life, from a tiny little egg all the way to a hopping, ribbiting frog. So come on, let's leap right in.
You know, have you ever been walking by a pond and seen these weird, jelly-looking blobs floating in the water? And then, right nearby, you spot a full-grown frog hopping around? It kind of makes you stop and think, right?
I mean, seriously, how does this gooey jelly turn into that? A creature with legs and lungs and that super long, sticky tongue. It feels like it should be magic, but it's not. It's one of the coolest things in nature. So let's figure it out together.
Okay, so we're going to look at a frog's entire transformation. This whole journey is called a life cycle. And believe me, a frog's life cycle is one wild ride.
So here it is. This circle shows the whole journey. See, it starts out as eggs, then they hatch into these little swimmers called tadpoles. Then the tadpoles change into a young frog, and finally a full-grown adult. And what do adult frogs do? Well, they lay more eggs, and the whole thing starts all over again. Pretty cool, right? Now let's zoom in on each step.
Okay, there is a giant, super scientific word for this whole amazing change. You ready? It's called metamorphosis. Whoa. It sounds really complicated, I know, but all it really means is a huge, total body change that an animal goes through as it grows up.
All right, every story has a beginning, and for our frog, that story begins as a teeny tiny egg floating in a pond. Let's check it out. So a mama frog lays her eggs in the water, and you see how they're all clumped together? That's called frog spawn. And that clear, goopy jelly around each little black dot, it does two super important things. First, it's like a squishy bodyguard, protecting the tiny baby frog growing inside. And second, it's also its first meal. How cool is that?
And you're not going to believe this. A mother frog doesn't just lay 1 or 2 eggs. Nope. Some of them can lay up to 4,000 eggs at one time. Can you even picture that? 4,000 little tadpoles all swimming around at once. That's just wild. So, after a couple of weeks just hanging out in that jelly, pop, a tiny little guy wiggles its way out. That's a tadpole. But it doesn't really look like a frog yet, does it? Not at all. With that long tail, it looks way more like a little fish. Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. The tadpole stage is all about one thing: changing. This is the main event, the heart of metamorphosis, and it is just jam-packed with awesome transformations. So, when you're a tadpole, your whole world is underwater. You breathe with gills, which are kind of like a fish's special nose for breathing in the water. You use that big tail to zip around, and you basically just spend all day eating tiny little plants and algae. Not a bad life, huh? All right, get ready for the big show. First, poof, 2 little back legs start to grow. And then, pop, out come the front legs. So, what happens to that long tail? Well, the tadpole's body is super smart. It knows it won't need a tail for hopping on land, so it slowly shrinks, and the body actually uses the tail for energy. It's kind of like eating your own packed lunch to get stronger. And while all that is happening on the outside, something even more important is happening on the inside. It's growing lungs, so it can breathe air just like us. So let's go back to that big word again, metamorphosis. Now that you've seen it, it makes more sense, right? It's just the word for that complete and total makeover, going from a fish-like tadpole that breathes underwater to a hopping frog that breathes air and eats bugs. It's an absolutely incredible transformation. But wait, it's not a full-grown frog just yet. There's one more really cool stage it has to go through. It's not quite a tadpole, but not quite a frog. So let's say hello to the froglet. A froglet is basically a teenage frog. It looks almost like an adult, right? It's got legs for hopping, but, see that? It still has a little bit of a tail left over. And now that its lungs are working, this is the moment it can finally climb out of the water and take its very first hops on land. So exciting! And a new life on land means a new menu. No more boring plants. Now the froglet starts hunting for yummy bugs. And this is when that super long, super sticky tongue becomes a total superpower. It's perfect for zapping flies right out of the air. Zap! But, this whole amazing journey, it really depends on one thing: a safe and healthy home. A frog's life is actually pretty fragile.
And it can teach us a lot about how healthy or unhealthy our world is. Okay, let's think all the way back to the beginning. Remember those jelly eggs? They don't have a hard shell like a chicken egg. They're soft and squishy. That means if they dry out, they can't survive. They absolutely have to stay wet in the water to grow. And this really shows the problem. Over here, we have what the frog eggs need, a nice, healthy, wet pond. But over here, this is a danger they face. Changes in our climate can make places hotter and drier. And when those ponds that frogs need start to dry up, well, that's really bad news. If the pond disappears, so do all those thousands of future frogs. And this is why it's so important. Frogs are true survivors. Get this. They have been on Earth for more than 200 million years. That means they were hopping around when dinosaurs were stomping around. Isn't that incredible? They've been here for so long, which makes it even more important for us to help them stick around. So we've seen this whole incredible journey. We've seen how amazing it is, but also how fragile it can be. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. What's one small thing, just one thing, that you think you could do to help keep our ponds healthy for frogs so they can keep making this amazing journey for millions of more years?